Welcome to the H.E.A.L, Help, Elevate, and Learn podcast. This podcast is a guide to healing your inner child and maturing your inner adult. This is the place where we slow down, look within, and begin the journey of restoring what was lost, silenced, or forgotten. Here, we believe that healing the inner child is not about reliving the past, it's about rewriting your future. Together, we'll uncover the wisdom, the strength, and the love you've always carried inside. So take a deep breath. You're safe, you're seen, and you're right where you need to be. Hello, everybody. How you doing today? This is Sakoni Prince of SakoniPrince.com, where we make motivation personal by introducing you to yourself. And I want to welcome you to the H.E.A.L podcast. H.E.A.L is the acronym for Help, Elevate, and Learn, and it's based on my latest book by the same name, but the subtitle is A Guide to Healing Your Inner Child. And I'm working on a sequel, and the sequel is entitled H.E.A.L, but the subtitle for that one is A Guide to Maturing Your Inner Adult. So these podcasts are intended to help you to understand that you can heal from your past hurts and traumas, but you can also mature to become the person that God intended for you to be. So I can't tell you how excited I am to be able to share this with you on this. We're not going to call it Black Friday. We're going to call it Mack Friday, but you'll see why we're going to do that in a minute. But listen, I want to thank our sponsors, none other than BetterHelp. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who is trained to listen and give you helpful, unbiased advice. First, you go to their site. You can use my link, betterhelp.com/SakoniPrinceH.E.A.L. You answer a few questions, and BetterHelp will match you to a professional who's had years of experience helping people with struggles just like yours. You can do it all from your phone or your computer, via a phone call, a video chat, or messaging. However you feel most comfortable, it is the easiest possible way to start talking to a therapist. You'll be matched to a therapist usually within 48 hours, so you can get started fast. Let BetterHelp connect you to a therapist who can support you all from the comfort of your own home. Visit betterhelp.com/SakoniPrinceH.E.A.L or choose Sakoni Prince H.E.A.L during your sign up and enjoy a special discount on your first month. We want to thank our sponsor, BetterHelp, for sponsoring this amazing episode. So listen, I said earlier, we're going to be talking about healing, but not on this Black Friday, but this Mack Friday. And you'll understand why when I bring on my guest, none other than my good friend, Dr. Johnny L. Mack. Dr. Mack, can you hear me?
I can hear you well and hear you loud and clear. How you doing, sir?
I am well. So listen, take a moment and tell the people about yourself.
Wow, I've been taking that moment for all of my life. I'm Dr. John L. Mack. They say I'm the one that makes the paper stack. But God blessed me with a gift to be able to extract and pull messages and books from people. So I'm the self-publishing strategist. I have 25 books that I've published of my own, and about 350 that I've helped other individuals or either consulted them in that project. So I'm a book strategist, a self-publishing strategist, but also I have a clear vision. I'm a clarity specialist. So I help people to understand what's blocking them and preventing them from moving forward with the right amount of energy.
Okay. All right. Well, we know that on this Mack Friday, we're going to get a whole bunch of Macalicious information coming from my good
You
friend.
get me hungry already.
Exactly. I'm hungry already.
This should be the meal podcast so we can eat.
The meal, not the H.E.A.L, but the meal podcast.
I'll just say
Next year, I'm at to pencil that out for next year. We're going to call it the meal podcast. Talk about everything that we ate on Thanksgiving. But listen, man, I know that you have some insight on mental health and on inner child trauma. So let's jump into some of these questions because I really want to hear what you have to say in reference to the questions that we come up for this season of our podcast.
Okay.
All right. So the first question is, what does maturing your inner adult mean to you, and how has that shown up in your personal journey?
That's probably the most amazing question of the day. what does healing the inner adult or maturing the inner adult mean to me? And that inner adult is who that wounded child became. And often they
Mhm.
go through life with that struggle of the adverse childhood experiences just kind of shaping and just morphing their whole life. So
Right.
the maturing the inner adult means that you are getting emotional, spiritual, and even physical maturity so that you can discipline yourself and that you can direct yourself so that you can have better outcomes as an adult because the things that were holding you back are no longer causing you to act immaturely.
Okay. Now, how has that shown up in your personal journey?
So now you're getting all up in my business. Now,
That's
you're
right. That's
trying to
right.
get
That's
me
what
to
we do
spill that
here.
tea.
That's
You
what we
know,
do here.
there's been there's multiple areas where all of us have that fractured inner child that needs to be matured. And I know that on my walk, every time I've had a transition to something greater and better, it meant me maturing, controlling, disciplining that adult that is acting out or that is showing up. So yeah, in every aspect of my life, that process of maturing and causing that inner adult to become and act out as a better person has been what my life has been led by.
Okay. Okay. So that brings us to our next question, which says many of us carry unhealed parts of our childhood.
Mm.
What are some signs that your inner child is still in control of your decisions today?
I think the biggest and most obvious sign is reaction rather than response.
Okay.
The all those adverse childhood experiences kind of they cemented in or they nailed in a reaction to trigger words, to responses, to even smells or sounds, and so we
Right.
react. We do things that are not appropriate, or definitely for that situation, and we find ourselves because we've done those things that we're reaping the consequences that those type of actions cause. So that child, that wounded child, that unhealed child is still causing us to act and react in certain ways that are not beneficial to our better good. So I found myself just experiencing that on a consistent basis, where I something that was a learned or a coping mechanism from childhood, I bring it into my adult situation, and it doesn't serve the situation well. As a matter of fact, it causes more issue than help.
I like what you said about coping mechanisms because a lot of us have those and we really don't even know that they are those until somebody, trained
Pushes
professional,
that
points them
button.
out. Or
Yeah.
if we have somebody that's been around us long enough to understand
Hmm.
our baseline and how we act, our moods and all that, but then they see something that kind of sticks out. They say, I notice every time that this happens, or a lot of the time this happens, you respond or you react this way. And see, oftentimes, well, like Les Brown said, you can't see the picture when you're in the frame. And unless we take an objective look at ourselves, we really will miss a lot of things that we're doing that we just consider, well, this is just who I am. But I tell people all the time, it's not what you do, but why you do it. And if you never take the time to understand the what, you will keep repeating the why. Or should I say
Exactly.
the other way around? Yeah, yeah. If you don't understand the why, you'll keep repeating the what. All right, so
Okay.
how can someone begin to recognize the difference between reacting from their inner child and responding as their mature adult self?
Hmm. Reacting as an immature child or responding as the adult self.
Right.
But that's been the crux of what I've been saying really this whole time is that we've got that fractured, wounded, immature child that's still causing us to do things that are inappropriate. So how do we change the narrative so we stop acting and stop allowing those traits, those actions, those aspects to come forward? How do we stop that? Well, we have to allow the maturing uh, adult to be the one that causes the reaction or the response. And that's a hard pill to swallow. It's a hard task to activate because you're so used to negativity and doing those things that are caused by that wounded child that you don't even realize that that you're doing something that is not culturally or that's not appropriate.
Yeah.
So the first thing is awareness, just realizing that you are engaging in the activity.
One of my guests from season 2, she said, you have to become curious about yourself. And again,
Hmm.
it's not what you do, but why you do it. If you never ask the question why, you'll keep repeating the what. So if you never are, I mean, because oftentimes, we'll see people doing stuff and we're like, why do they do that? Why do they act like that? Why do they respond like that? Why did they go off like that? But rarely do we do that with ourselves. And I know for me, what was the catalyst for me starting my personal development journey was a relationship I was in. When I was in college
Hmm.
in Atlanta, the relationship went south. It came to an end. Brother needed some tissue, and a big pint of ice cream. I mean, hey, I was going through. But you know what I did during those moments? I started instead of me blaming and instead of me criticizing her, I started asking myself questions. I said, Sakoni, why is it that most of the relationships you've been in, it was a woman that ended? Why? I became curious about myself. Why,
Mm-hmm.
again, why I do what I do? Because it's not what you do, but why you do it. And if you never understand the why, you'll keep repeating the what. So yeah, you have to be curious. You have to be able to recognize and look at yourself and see those patterns and those things that are occurring that is cause you to be stagnant or cause you to be stuck, causing you not to be able to move forward. You need to be able to actually put yourself in a position to where you can see yourself. And that's one of the reasons why my slogan is I'm Sakoni Prince of SakoniPrince.com, where we make motivation personal, by introducing you to yourself. Because my thing is I want to hold up a mirror to you so you
Mm.
can see what's
What we
what's
see.
really going on with you.
Yeah.
Exactly. See what's really going on with you so that you can better yourself. None of us are perfect. There's always room for improvement. So we have to have those intentional conversations and exercises to see where we are and to get better. Every team, every sports team that's a team sports, they have a game reel. They watch and see what they did right and what they did wrong so they can get better. But check it out. They also watch their
Ex-
competition too.
mhm.
They see who they're up against. And so we need to make sure that we are not letting those opportunities pass us by evaluating ourselves. And again, in a non-threatening moment, because some people try to do it at the wrong time, and people tempers be hiding, flaring, and stuff getting thrown back and forth. But if you do it in a non-threatening moment, you'll have a better
And
chance to
sometimes
get.
what we feel is
Yeah,
sometimes what we look as being non-threatening, the other person, because they're operating off of their immature childhood operating system, they think it is, they receive it as threat. They don't receive it as feedback. They receive it as criticism and as judgment. So that's hard to do. So when there's an issue that causes a tissue, well, the question is, how do you respond or do you react? And that's important, powerful questions. That it's hard. You say ask yourself, or talk to that inner child. Sometimes that child isn't listening to sound advice, even from the adult that you are.
that's true. That's true. But I will say this: that there's a price to be paid. I tell people all the time. I tell them all the time: never let your emotions drive. They're not covered on your insurance. When you act out of your emotions, it's like giving the keys to a
Mm,
5-year-old and say, "Okay, here's
mm.
my Bentley. You can take it for a spin." And
And then
whatever
you're
they hit,
surprised when they wreck.
exactly, whatever they hit, whatever they tell. And see, what'll happen is people will do that. They'll let their inner child just take control and just and have this tantrum. And when it's finished, it crawls back in the back and gets in this booster seat and fastens itself back in. Now you got to deal with the
You got to
results.
deal with that with the overflow.
You got to deal with the
Oh, that's
outcome, and that's one of the
that's
reasons
awesome.
why I try to have people to do this on a basis again when it's not a non-threatening moment, because in those moments the best thing to do is try to calm down and get yourself to a place to where you can evaluate, okay, what happened and why. But then again, when you're out of that situation, understanding why it got to where it got to. And that's what a lot of people really don't do. So, in your experience, what
Mm.
role does forgiveness of self and others play in the healing and maturing process?
You know, forgiveness is the children's bread. Forgiveness allows you to be able to give yourself permission to succeed. Forgiveness allows you to give your own self permission to win and to keep on and not give up. Because what happens is you think that you're letting the other person off, that they're getting a break. They did something bad, horrible, mean, inappropriate. And if you forgive them, you let them get away with something. But in reality, you're allowing yourself not to be stuck in that quagmire. You're giving yourself permission to go beyond the thing that was holding you back and preventing you from going forward. So it's forgiveness is not for them, it's for yourself. And when you forgive yourself, it allows you now to move forward without the emotional baggage holding you back and getting caught on an issue that has already occurred and that you can't change just because you're unforgiving. The issue, what caused that doesn't change. You have to change to the point where you can allow the rift to be unfractured because you're no longer holding that action or that activity against and yourself. I mean, the hardest part is forgiving yourself.
Yeah. And that's why, the question talked about, forgiveness of self and others. You know, in one of my therapy sessions, my therapist talked about every relationship goes through rupture and repair,
Mm.
rupture and repair. But what happens when you have a rupture and a rupture and a rupture and a rupture, a little repair, but another rupture. The point I'm trying to make is that that us forgiving and being open to the relationship and making it work, that needs to happen sooner than later because once you got all those ruptures, there has to be a several effect repairs to get back to where you were. Now, if you just have a rupture, then a repair, if you're going like this, yeah, you are still staying close and the relationship is growing. But if you're growing like this and there's no coming back together, then that's where it becomes detrimental. And that's where if I
But
forgiveness it's so critically important because it needs to happen sooner than later. You finna say something?
no, I was just agreeing with you that those ruptures, those tiny ruptures, lead to a larger fissure where just actually the whole thing tears apart. That's why you have relationships that aren't able to be mended, marriages, divorce, and a lot of that could be saved or could be healed if they would take the time to do exactly what you say: forgive themselves, forgive others, and not allow those adverse childhood experiences to be controlling your current situation.
That's so true. So now here's something that I know that you're going to be able to help us with. What daily habits or practices help nurture both healing the inner child and strengthening the inner adult?
I think having set goals and positioning yourself to actively uh, try to accomplish those goals, that's what's going to give you the strength. So, in accomplishing that goal, you come to a point where you realize that this activity, this trigger, this response or reaction will not serve the greater good of you accomplishing your goal. So that gives you the wherewithal to say, I either need to amend the goal or implement the actions that are going to allow me to accomplish it, which means that I have to start being more forgiving. There's things that I'm doing that are not germane to the accomplishment of the goal. And so there has to be a conscious, deliberate decision to not continue in that direction.
Mm. And you're right. Healing has to be intentional. I know God made our bodies to where, under the right conditions, healing is natural. But there are certain injuries that we go through that we have to be intentional. I remember when I had my total hip replacement back in 2017, they had these things they called hip precautions. And they were saying that if I broke one of these hip precautions, I could cause my hip to pop out of place and they would have to go back in there and put it back in. So I was very intentional. I said, I'm like the convict. I'm not going back. I'm not
Okay.
going back.
I ain't gonna go back. No,
So
no.
if something fell on the floor, it stayed down there. If I had to get in the bed, I rolled in the bed, and because they literally said you could scoot to slide in the bed and it could pop out. I had to roll in the bed and roll out. But I was intentional because I knew if I didn't take those precautions seriously, I could re-injure myself and I could wind up having to go through the surgery again. So
Exactly.
having that level of intentionality is so important. And even with us today, we have to make sure that we are intentionally trying to become better versions of ourselves. It don't just happen. It's like a garden. You have to weed, you have to fertilize, you have to plant, you have to sow, you have to water. There's so many things you have to do in order to get the results that you want. Now you just throw some seeds out in the backyard and go in there, kick your feet up and watch the game. But that don't mean that next year or come harvest time you are gonna have anything worth shouting about. But the person that has put in the work, they'll have something that everybody's envious of simply because they were intentional about it.
Well, consistent and intentional. That they it wasn't just a one off. I think a lot of people try something once, they'll do it, they'll attempt it, and when it doesn't give them the results that they're looking for, they just give up on it. It doesn't work. It wasn't for me. So just like a lot of times with AI, people look at it as being such a an invasive situation. They try it, it doesn't give them great results, and they give up. Oh, it doesn't work. It's you got to have technical skills. I think that you're 100% right. Often we find ourselves reacting and acting to situations that if we are intentional about, we can have different results. If we're intentional about what outcomes we want, then we'll engage in the activity to produce those results, and we'll stop doing things that are going to prevent those results. But the issue is that we continue to allow those little foxes to spoil the vine, and then they become intertwined in our whole makeup over time. And it's difficult at that point to unlearn the actions and activities that are causing our demise.
That's so true. I tell people all the time that we don't have first reactors, we have first responders. That means that they have
But
a response for a particular situation: car accident, house fire, flood, natural disaster, man made disaster. They practice, they run drills, they have scenarios that they go through, and they do all these things because they have a response to the situation, not just a reaction, but a response. So, again, we don't have first reactors, we have first responders. Now, when it comes to our own life, maybe we could take a lesson from them and we can learn how to have a response instead of a reaction.
well,
All right,
that's the
so
whole secret.
that's it. That's it. That's it. Well, listen, we're going to take a minute and we're going to check out some commercials from our sponsors. You've taken the first step. You've learned to heal. Now it's time to go deeper. The journey to maturity doesn't stop with awareness, it grows with action. In this powerful sequel to Heal, you'll uncover new strategies to elevate your mindset, strengthen your emotional resilience, and step fully into the adult you were always meant to be. This is more than a book, it's a blueprint for transformation. Are you ready to rise? The next chapter of your growth starts now. Available soon on Amazon. And we are so excited to be bringing that to you first quarter of 2026. You definitely want to get that book. And we're going to be doing pre-orders starting in January, so we'll let you know about that as well. But I do have another commercial from our sponsor, and it's none other than my coach, Dr. Ruben West, and he has a trip coming up next year for Nairobi, Kenya. Check this out.
Dr. West.
So if you've ever considered going out of the country, if you ever considered speaking internationally, if you ever considered having a life-changing experience, I would encourage you. Reach out to Dr. Ruben West. If you don't know how to get in contact with him, reach out to me. I will get you in contact with him because that I went in 2023 and that was a life-changing experience. And I'm looking forward to going back really, really soon. Well, listen, Dr. Mack, or should I say Dr. Johnny L. Mack, Magnificent Mack.
I am magnificent.
we have a couple of more questions, and then we're going to wrap this up so people can finish eating those leftovers. But okay, so our next question is: can you share a personal breakthrough moment when you realized you were no longer controlled by past wounds but guided by maturity?
That question kind of sinks in a little deep. A lot of times when we're working on something and we're working on improving something, and we just keep coming back and you keep working on it, and then one day you realize, wow, I'm not getting the negativity any longer. I'm seeing the improvement. Well, that's how it is with working on forgiveness and healing that portion of you that's been wounded and that's been injured and that's been hurt. It's just like almost one day you wake up, and what you've been practicing, what you've been working on, what you've been dealing with trying to overcome, you realize that you've reached that break point. And it's not something that just magically happens, but you realize it after over time, especially if you've been intentional about trying to reframe the result. It's something that happens only over time. It's not just an instant decision that changes it. It's when you practice it and put it into intentional motion day after day after day. One day you just realize, hey, it's not as heavy as it was. I'm able to do 50 push-ups when I can only do 5 when I started. So it's that over time effect that causes the result that you're looking for. What you smiling for?
So do you happen to have a personal example of that?
Of where over time, well,
or where you had a
I think
breakthrough moment?
the breakthrough moment, I task myself with getting in shape. I couldn't do no more than about 10 or 15 push-ups, and anything else I was winded and wore out. So over time, I committed to myself that I was going to do 50 push-ups. I was going to do this 10-minute daily routine, and many days I convinced myself to not do it because it wore me out. I mean, afterwards I was just like drained. But over time, I started pushing myself and pushing myself and demanding more out of myself. And I realized just recently I can do 50 push-ups with no problem. And that entire 10-minute routine includes planks and all these things. Whereas a year ago, just to be able to get through it was something that was a miracle if it happened. Now, if I don't do it, I feel like, wow, I'm missing something. I got to do it. So it's a part of my routine now. But it took that time over time, cementing that activity is making it easier to do.
Right, right. Okay. All right. Last question. Last question. What encouragement would you give to someone who feels stuck in old patterns and unsure if healing is possible for them?
Wow, stuck in that old pattern and unsure if healing is possible for them. Um, that's where the mindset. Anything that anytime that you have any healing, any dealing whatsoever, you have to deal first with the mindset. Where's the mindset at, and what's the temperature? What's the atmosphere in the room? So once you are able to deal with the mindset and with the intentionality, then you I would tell that person that healing is possible, but it's gradual. It's not a magic wand effect. And so I would help them to understand that it occurs over time and it occurs over repetition. Repetition with time causes the result that you're looking for. So it's not, if you're looking for a magic fix or for it to happen instantaneous, you're going to be disappointed. But if you're willing to engage in the process and trust the process and put the time in and the effort and the intentionality, that healing not only can occur, it will occur.
Okay. All right. Well, that is so, so true. So listen, Dr. Mack, we are getting ready to get out of here. But if somebody wanted to reach out to you, find out more about you, follow you, find out what you have going on, how would they do that? What's the easiest, quickest way for somebody to do just that?
The easiest, quickest, bestest way is to go to my email. Just email me, askjmack2@gmail.com. That's ASKJMACK, the number 2@gmail.com. And
Okay.
then
All right.
I've got
Well,
all sorts of ways within that we can schedule a Zoom call or schedule a one-on-one so that we can move forward.
okay. Well, and a little known fact, Dr. Mack is the one that helped me publish my first book. Are you climbing the wrong mountain? And he was instrumental in that. And I'm telling you, I am just
You
so,
received a reward for that book,
yes, I
an award.
did. Yes, award-winning author, and thanks to Dr. Johnny L. Mack. Hey, well, listen, we are going to call it a night. I know that a lot of people are, they are trying to get their Black Friday stuff done, but we helped you with your Mack Friday stuff by having none other than Dr. Johnny Mack. So listen, we ask that you would like and share this video so somebody can understand that they too can heal. And as you know, we close out our show with my scissor reel because I do personal development and leadership development. And so we're going to close out with this. But listen, we will see you in the next episode. Well, my name is Sakoni Prince of SakoniPrince.com, where we make motivation personal by introducing you to yourself. I'm a motivational speaker, a trainer, and a coach. I'm also an author. I help people in the area of personal development and leadership development because I believe that you can't lead others until you learn how to lead yourself. But once you learn how to lead yourself, the next logical step is that you lead other people.
Sakoni Prince is the best keynote I've ever seen.
He really encouraged me so much.
He has this ability of seeing in people what they don't see in themselves.
He was so confident. When he was coming to the stage, you could see like, wow, this is a lion.
Any actor that's going for a role, they do a case study. If I'm going to be a fry cook, I go to a restaurant and watch people that are fry cooks. If I'm going to be a mob boss, I go and, well, maybe not go with the mob, but you take some notes as to what they do. Our children are watching us. What can they reference when they step into our shoes? I do what I do because I believe that people have truly yet to understand their purpose. Once you know who you are, nothing can stop you. But until you know who you are, anything can. So my goal is to really help people to understand their purpose and their calling. And oftentimes they have the answers themselves, but they're not asking the right questions. So I help people to get to that place to where they look at themselves, they step back and they see how they've been a help to those around them and what really drives them. And from that, they really understand the value of it. They learn to value their value and see what value their value brings. Because a lot of people, they have yet to do that. Until you know who you are, anything can stop you. But once you know who you are, nothing can stop you. I want you to understand that you are blessed. That you are blessed to be a blessing. That there is somebody looking up to you. They're looking at you. Don't ever forget that. Because if you ever do, you're going to leave them without a mind.
I've learned so much and I've experienced a lot of interactions with people.
The practical approach, like you can't just sit down there, you have to walk up to an opportunity. Sometimes you have to grab the opportunity. Sometimes you have to fight for the opportunity. There's so much life lessons.
I think from today onwards, I'll stretch out and reach to higher levels.